Good afternoon, good morning.
Good morning.
I apologize for that loud noise.
Well, I'm in the parking lot, so you're liable to hear anything out here.
Okay.
Let me roll down my window a little bit. It gets a little bit stuffy here.
Okay.
End of January.
I
Yeah,
know. All
I
right.
don't, I don't want that. Let's see if it's still there.
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay, let me turn this down a little bit. I'm trying to see how to get it off of the
The
speaker.
car.
It goes across the Bluetooth on here, handset.
Okay.
Okay, can I hear you now?
I can hear you.
Okay, let me turn up the volume on the handset. Otherwise, it goes through the speakers on the car and then it cuts off after a little while.
Ah, okay.
Bill wants to, let's see, audio. uh, Speak. Okay. Now I should be able to hear you.
Okay.
There we are.
Scoot up a little closer.
Well, I can't get it any closer. It's on the dashboard.
No, I mean, I'm scooting myself up
Okay.
because I jimmy rig my whole thing here so it may collapse at any moment. I'm gonna be still. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Good, good, good.
Sit there and relax a minute, but
Yes.
just got off the floor, so it's just walk, sit down, get my stuff together, and now I'm here.
How many did you say you were Tuesday, Thursday, Friday?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Tuesday,
and
Wednesday.
then Friday we have the class. So
That's right. So 24 hours a week.
that's right.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
he wants 8 hour days here.
yeah, you don't do on call because they don't have on call there.
No,
That's good. That is really good. And do you volunteer or are you a part of their paid team?
I don't get paid anything.
Okay, so it's a volunteer role.
Yeah, in fact, I tell them I pay to be here.
No, that's right. Well, that's good. I have quite a few steps to go through, including background check and all that kind of stuff. So I may run it by Joseph to see if he wants to do a visit because he's already got all that access. But I'll keep you posted because it takes time to get everything done that Gilbert sent to me that I need to do. I mean, it's the whole 9 yards. Not just the background check, but the credit history, all that kind of stuff, which is good. I need to set it up for the future. I just don't know how quickly that gets processed.
That takes so little time. I can do background checks in 5 minutes. I as I used to do low income housing, and I used to do background checks while they were sitting there at the desk in front of me. They're
Oh,
just probably going through the backlog of trying to do everything. But I
uh,
would do a credit check and a background check, and it would come back. And in fact, I was hiring one time an assistant, and I while I was talking to him, I said, as I get the background check, am I going to find anything that you're going to have to explain? And he said, no. And then I looked at it and said, what were you arrested for in 2005?
wow.
And he said, well, I was going through a divorce and I was going out the door. My wife said, and the bird bath was mine. I got a sledgehammer and beat that thing to dust. She called the police and I was arrested. I just said, you idiot.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So maybe it won't take so long. I'm glad to hear that. That's good. So what did you have for our agenda today?
I had whichever weekly reflection you like to pick out.
Okay.
and I've got the outcome indicators because they're all second unit is all new to me.
Yeah. So which one do you want to start with? What would be most helpful for you?
Probably the outcome indicators.
Okay. I think I printed them. Let me grab it. Yeah, because like you said, this is a
New way of looking at it.
yeah. Do you have 5.661 at the top of your? I've
Yes,
printed
yes,
multiple
yes, I
now.
do.
I'm trying to, yeah, this is all, yes, this is you, 1B. Okay. So you have 1B, one is the first one?
Yeah, one, which is just the that life presentation that we did it.
Okay.
Then I
So,
have two and three.
okay, let's start with one. And if you would start, let's see, start with the reading of the awareness of growing edges.
Students' narrative presented to CP group. It's just a narrative. Am I
That,
supposed to say that differently? Uh,
nope, I'm looking
evidence,
wrong.
evidence.
So
Okay.
now let me get to the right persons. Dan, and you sent it to my work email, right? I'm going to pull it up
Okay.
because the key for that is, there it is, 124 is, now I have it. Oh, don't go away. I don't have to edit it. I just want to see it. Don't go away. Where'd you go? Okay. So the key is to connect the the integration of your narrative history in your spiritual care. So that category is right. Particular indicator is articulate how one's narrative history informs one's values and beliefs about spiritual care. So, what in your presentation is a good example of how your values and beliefs inform the way you do spiritual care? There are quite a few.
You mean the instances of the? I just put down there how it shaped inside. It shaped insights of the development of spiritual care.
Yeah, that's a little too general. Can you give me a specific example?
Oh, let me see. Um, I think most of what I presented this time was on family, and it gave me, just on as I progressed through the family. Uh,
Right.
let me.
So, in particular, what is it about just one example in your family history that shows up in the way you are a chaplain?
I have more insight on. For them, they would have blended families, but I have the fact that I mean, for me, understanding that families change, and you don't always have that much. You don't always have control over what happens in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You go through a divorce, and you don't always have control over whether you're going to be divorced or not. Uh, Somebody dies, and you don't have control over that or not.
So that's
So
excellent. So your family history, where there were many things, divorce, death, etc., that you didn't have control over, even your blended family, shows up in you when you're providing spiritual care as what? You,
there's having an understanding that I'm how to put it into words. Um,
I'm with patients because I know all that stuff about change and things you don't have control over, for example, in your family. I, what?
I guess the easy thing would be have empathy with them, but it's have an understanding of the complexity of the change that they go through.
That's excellent. You have an understanding of the complexity of the change they go through. So, in your spiritual care, as you just said, you have empathy.
I'll have to reword this. I'm putting down in my notes.
Particularly, it sounded like empathy around change and how that impacts folk. So, how are you supporting me given the empathy and understanding you have about how we can't control change and those sorts of dynamics in our lives? How does that direct how you interact with me, the patient? Is there any values you have? Is there any beliefs you have?
Well, I don't have to enter into any kind of judgment. Don't have to.
There you go. You don't enter into any kind of judgment about those changes. You said one, I think in your presentation, the only thing that's constant is change.
My mentor, he had his PhD in organizational development, and he used to say things that were annoyingly true. And one of them is that change is inevitable. Either you manage change or change will manage you. And so I see, especially as the parents come through, I see them. Even yesterday, one came through, and the boy's got leukemia, and the family lives about an hour's away, and they are starting to understand exactly how much they value each other being together all the time. So I spent quite a bit of time just with them as a family, just encouraging that, telling each other how much they value each other.
So,
And
so one of the things I'm hearing you're able to do in the midst of observing or journeying with people in their change is you help them appreciate what they value
when I can, yes,
and what you value coming out of your own experiences of change is the quality time with family.
yes.
That's it. There you go. You have just articulated how your values and beliefs about spiritual care are informed by your narrative history.
Okay.
Very good. You're not trying to fix the family, you're not judging the family, you're just helping them see this great thing that you also value. Very good.
I love it when I see a family that is close together and they may not even understand how close together they are,
Hmm.
and just encourage that.
Okay.
That's encouraging the spirituality. It may not have anything to do with God, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost, but it has to do with enhancing their life
Okay.
and allowing them to appreciate or look at it sometimes as that is their value. And this yesterday articulated the fact that that has now become something that they realize is one of their values.
So your narrative history has helped you find this value of encouraging. And
Yes.
so you function in part as an encourager and you identify for them things they value. This is excellent. You're making the connection between how your narrative history informs your values about spiritual care, your beliefs about spiritual care, and your practice in spiritual care. You got it.
It,
Knocked it.
it, it seems a little bit strange sometimes that as you go through some tragedy in your own life, that would help you to encourage others. But I guess that's just a Second Corinthians 1
Hmm.
type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, with the comfort that I receive, not from anybody else, but just the comfort I receive by reflecting and going through it. I'm able to then look at when somebody has something of value of encouraging that May not have anything to do with the 3 year old that's in the hospital bed. The 3 year old doesn't appreciate anything, but the parents do.
That's beautiful, Dan. Well done. Well stated. Excellent. Hope you can rewrite all that
I've got scribbles in there. I'll see whether
in
I
a
can.
little box. Very good. You want to look at the next one? Excellent.
The next two are actually, and in fact, I wrote a weekly reflection on the same thing. Um, I wrote for the growing edges during Unit 1. I became aware of my narrative history where it intersected that of another. Now I'm aware when my narrative history intersects theirs or is different. I guess I should at the time.
Ah, okay. Where it intersects, say it. So say that to me one more time.
What I wrote down there. Sometimes when I write something, I think I know exactly what I said. Now I'm aware of when my narrative history intersects theirs or is different. Um, at that time.
At that time. Okay, so in the moment of the spiritual care visit, you become aware of how your narrative is intersecting with theirs and the differences.
Yes, both the things that are the similar. I think last unit I would be looking where is it all similar? We're all from Bakersfield. We're all from the same side of town. We all went to Bakersfield College, but that's not always it. Right now, understanding that intersection is not always the similarities. In this case, it was recognizing my narrative history is completely different than this young man's.
Yeah, I think the intent of the indicator is similarities, and you're helping me appreciate that. That also, because if they're different, they're not intersecting, they're traveling differently. But you're helping me appreciate that part of the indicator that I had missed, because it does tilt towards. Yeah. I think that's very good. So it's not just how they're similar, but it's also where they may diverge, they may be different and what that looks like. Give me an example of how that informed the way you did spiritual care. Very good.
And this was with somebody, his life, this young 15-year-old boy's life is completely different.
Hmm. Yeah.
I try without apologizing to say where my life started and what it's like.
Hmm.
My life is um, it's not mainstream because um, my some of what went through being in Bakersfield is. Did you ever read their book Grapes of Wrath by Steinbeck?
Yes.
The setting of that book is 1930s Bakersfield,
Mm. Okay.
of how immigrants came from Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, came into the Central Valley, and they were not accepted. They were Okies.
Hmm.
Now think of it, and that was said like a racial slur.
Hmm.
It's like any other racial slur. It was a racial slur. They were poor. They were ignorant. Uh, I can. I thought I was mimicking my relatives when I would talk like this when I was a little bit older. I found out that I'd acquired it when I lived in central Indiana for a while in the rural areas, and I'd actually acquired this without knowing it. And I thought I was making fun of my Okie relatives.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Um, but in this one, so I will sometimes say I came from a redneck background.
Hmm.
I did. Uh, came from Okie redneck backgrounds, uh, where ignorant was a it could would be used as a word at the dinner table of those ignorant people.
Hmm.
It was oftentimes used of some of their relatives. Working in honky tonks when I was 16 years old. Um, it was a different culture,
Yeah.
and then came up through going through college of kind of like a mainstream culture, then back in the Midwest, and then over here again. So I
Right.
have my background is a little bit different, but I came upon this one boy that's 15 years old and he's been in a gang
Okay.
and shot, now half paralyzed.
Hmm.
Still has that's that it's a Mexican gang, that macho Mexican gang mentality of I'm a tough guy, and now I've earned my um, now it's my badge of honor that I was shot. So now I'm going to give him spiritual care.
Well, what do you have in common with him?
Very little. For me, it was just simply understanding that my difficulty was there was going to be a difficulty, and where did I have the only place where I came in contact is trying to do an assessment and realizing this boy never had really a father. I had three sons. So how am I going to how am I going to access his needs?
Did you have a father?
Yes,
Really?
alcohol an alcoholic father.
So you have often noted ways in which your father was there but not there.
Yes, yes. Um, in the house, the a provider made sure that everybody had shoes, everybody had um, we had a roof over our head, food in our bellies, but he was um, I think it was genetic, being not being able to be there for anybody. When he died, even my mother said she didn't know him.
Okay.
I never heard an autobiographical statement out of him.
Okay.
He
So,
laughed only when he was drunk.
wow. Okay.
Um, I probably got more, since I was the oldest, I probably got more attention as a youngster than the others did, but nobody really could admit to knowing him. And my grandparents were just about the same way. Cheerful. They were cheerful all the time, but my grandmother died before I knew that she had a sister there in town. That's how little we knew about each other.
Okay. So it sounds like that is an intersection. That's something you have in common. Um, Perhaps this experience of an absent father, even though literally yours was there, there's still some absence in the relationship, the intimacy. And you have picked up that this young man has the absence of a father.
Yeah. Absence of a father. I have what I would oftentimes call an ice queen mother. Everybody else saw her as being very, very personable, pretty, but at home, it's basically you're on your own. It's we raised ourselves.
Yeah.
Three of the four of us
So that's
learned.
you
Three of the
may
four. Hmm?
with him.
What's that?
That's something else you may have in common with him, this notion of raising yourselves.
Yeah.
So your spiritual care assessment helped you identify a couple of places. What else did your spiritual care assessment give you?
Spiritual history. I used to have a good friend who worked with gangs a lot. Young, you would have liked to have known and met him. Pastor Harris in Compton, as he was a calm, smiling, um, man who worked intimately with the gangs there in Compton. And it was known quite strongly that you do not fool with Pastor Harris or your future will be limited. You know,
Mm.
brutally limited because they counted on him. And he was a good friend of mine, and I relied on just listening to him a lot. So his testimony informed me a lot about what this kid would be like, where he does not care whether he lives or dies, does not care whether he's shot or not. Um, in fact, to be shot is now you are now a man.
Okay. So these these this assessment of the young man is informed in part by your lived experience with this pastor
And my oldest son was in gangs.
and your oldest son. So there are a lot of intersections here, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we come alongside someone, it's helpful to know where we meet, where we have some things in common to help us access empathy.
Yeah. I think I put that in the
And
weekly reflection. I put that in there, but on the evidence of progress, I didn't.
okay, okay. I think that's insightful.
I even put in there. Let's see, bring that up. In the weeks that I've had with this young man, I would try to help him on his journey with the calm, non-anxious, non-judgmental demeanor I saw in Pastor Harris. Um, and he would say, even as he is working among them, it was probably difficult for me to listen to him at the very beginning. I mean, as far as to be able to, I could listen to him, but digest it.
Are you
The
talking
hmm,
pastor or the boy?
pardon,
The boy or the pastor?
the pastor.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
their experiences are 30 years apart. Um, I understood it when I saw the boy. It was when I was first hearing it from Pastor Harris, difficult to fully comprehend of young men who did not care whether they lived or died, did not expect to live very long.
Wow.
Fully did not expect to live long. Life had little meaning. Um, I talked with him yesterday, and I'm trying to get into the spiritual assessments and understand FICA a little bit. So I experiment a little bit with that. Saying what before this happened, what what did you value? What was what made life good? He just shrugged, said, I never gave it a thought. Basically looking away from me at that time.
Hmm.
And I said, what is there anything now that gives you any value? I said, you've got your mother and your sister and your aunt, your grandmother right here, literally not more than 5 feet away. Never gave it a thought. Nothing has value.
Hmm.
So I said, I bet you, if I could say it this way, anything that you had at value, hopes, dreams, and everything went away that day. Then he starts nodding his head.
No,
Yes.
said yes.
Yeah. He's
Okay.
partly paralyzed now. How long that will last, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But since I understood that viewpoint and I watched it in my son,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get down into trying to delve deeply into feelings
Mm-hmm.
because he's denying feelings. I wasn't going to get into the pity party with him because that wasn't going to help. All I could try to do is just bring up some things that were where do I punch a button that'll get him to actually It feels brutal. It feels brutal to have to look at somebody and say, I bet you felt like your whole world disappeared that day. That feels invasive to me.
Hmm.
But that was what was would get him to nod and say yes. Now, when if I go back again next week, it'll be as though no connection had been there at all. So all I do is I pray that what little time I have with him does something to shape a direction. And he's got a physical therapist who's in a wheelchair.
Hmm.
So physical therapist and I are talk a little bit
Yeah.
about where he's going.
Okay.
So um, that's where I go with him.
That's very insightful. And so you started out by saying I got nothing in common with him, but the more you identified a number of points of intersection and out of your lived experience that have informed your care. That's pretty powerful. And in the moment, your awareness was, I have nothing in common with him. So the growing edge might be just what you did right here, that in the moment, come to see the commonality.
Okay.
Let's see, you want to look at the next one? That's powerful.
The 1A3 was basically
1B3?
well, yeah, 1B3.
Okay.
Art, I just have it written down wrong. Um,
On mine, yours says 1B3.
does it? Okay, I think I corrected it. One I have my printout is different. Articulate how one's social identity inform one's approach. Was it
Yep.
okay? Before CPE, I paid little attention to my social identity.
Oh,
I've worked multiculturally for many years. Asia, South Central Los Angeles. I was considered Filipino at one time and Thai another. And you see a picture of me within the Thai church, and you've got 100 people, and I'm in the middle, and it's just like this big. I'm twice their size, and it just comes out. You got 100 people, and I'm the one that is the size of two or three of any one of them.
wow. Wow.
Not even the fact of being white, just the size difference.
Got, got it. Okay.
Even went to the Philippines. Well, I've been to the Philippines and I've been to Thailand. But at the time, I didn't pay much attention to. I worked in a Chinese building where I had 100 and probably 100 Chinese um, uh, residents,
Wow.
and I don't speak anything other than shishi, and that's about it.
Okay.
But we communicated well.
Dan, I just lost your audio.
Did you? Well, what do I do here? Let me get this and take a look.
Is your phone in the sun?
Yeah, that might be part of it. Let me
Yeah. See
let
if
me.
you can shade. Yeah.
You can hear me now, though, huh?
Hear you loud and clear.
Okay, let me change the spot where I've got this little holder here, if I can. Where is it going to? Well, I may have to jury rig this too, the same way that you did. Put it in the cup holder and lean it against the water bottle.
There you go. That's good. That'll it's out of the sun for sure now.
Okay.
So continue. You were saying you were in that church and you didn't speak, and then I lost you.
Well, I didn't speak Thai, but I was considered Thai because my wife was Thai.
Ah.
I was working as a social worker. Best I can describe it was called a resident service coordinator. I was like a resource specialist for all the social programs in Los Angeles County.
Mm.
and the majority of them were Chinese, and I didn't speak Chinese. They didn't speak English,
Wow.
so it was. Even had to help lead a seminar one time on communicating with cross culturally, and I found that as long as you've got a good attitude and you accept people as people, the cultural differences disappear.
Okay.
They don't care that you don't do things exactly as they do, as long as they know that you care. I was called the Chinese son-in-law when they found out that my wife was ethnically Chinese.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I've been able to enjoy some different things as time goes on,
Right.
but I didn't pay much a difference to the differences or my cultural identity. Uh,
Hmm.
that didn't make any difference, so I didn't pay any attention to it. So I have to now through this pay attention to that I have blue eyes.
Hmm. Well, how so that's true. And awareness is, but you have already articulated an awareness in terms of the way, even though you didn't speak Chinese, your wife was ethnically Chinese, so that afforded you a certain position. Same thing with her being Thai. So you're aware of what you're not. You're aware of your blue eyes, right? You're
Got
aware,
me a lot of attention when I was 16 years old.
I bet you're aware of the command of English and only English.
Uh-huh.
So now it seems the awareness is really an awareness of how your social identity has informed who you are before you even get to how it informs how you do spiritual care. Because I mostly hear you talk about yourself as other.
Not sure what that means.
You speak a language other than what the majority of people around you speak. You ethnically and culturally and religiously are something else other than what the majority of the people around you. So you sort of other yourself. I have nothing in common with this young man. Other. So it's almost seems to me, I'm wondering if it's helpful to talk about how you talk about your social identity, but not as othering. It just is what it is. And therefore, how does that inform your approach to spiritual care? And by the way, I heard it. You said, I feel like if you treat people like people,
Yeah.
where does that come from? That treating people like people. Where's that come from in you?
I generally enjoy people
Have you ever been treated like you weren't people?
at home in my first marriage.
Okay.
In fact, my first wife called me up the other day. Uh, talk about countertransference. It would be like you remind me of us 20 years ago. Um, she called me up for 2 hours. She talked about all the indignities, all the slights, all the disappointments that she had been receiving for 2 hours. And
Wow.
how our children disappointed her and did not treat her right. How all of her boyfriends didn't treat her right. How the doctors and the nurses and the administrators weren't treating her right. And they yelled at her, and she yelled at them, and the next day I read something out of Proverbs 28 or something like that, where it said, sand is heavy and rocks are heavy, but the vexation of a fool is even heavier.
Hmm.
And I go, okay, now I know what happened.
What happened?
Well, what had happened is that I was being vexed by a fool, by somebody who cannot appreciate or respect anybody else in life. And when you have, it's not me calling her a fool, scripture just called her a fool.
What does that vexed mean?
Disturb, uh, irritate, um, cause me to be disturbed inside myself. We knew we were married for 30 years. And that, if you're married for somebody for 30 years and you are attempting to love them for 30 years, um,
Hmm.
that person becomes a part of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's 20 years ago, she still if I allow it, she still has that ability to be able to get inside me and stir me up. And I say nothing
Hmm.
to her in return. I'm not going to stir the pot.
Okay. Wow.
So kind of like on that first one, some of these things of having, I enjoy people. I know how not to treat them. I know how I want to be treated. I want to be treated with respect. I want to be enjoyed. I want to be appreciated. And I believe what Jesus said, treat others as you want to be treated.
Okay. So part of your social identity as a Christian informs the way you want to treat people. Part of the treatment you've received, informed by your social identity in this world, is you are a white man who knows what it is to be treated with a certain level of respect because of that. And part of your social identity, including your family and dynamics of your marriage, that's part of our identity as well. You know some ways you don't want to be treated based on how you were treated in those dynamics. Do you see how those social identities all contribute to informing you want to treat people like people because you know how it feels not to be, you know how it feels to be, and your faith informs you of how that's how we should treat one another.
I got married a second time. She treated me like a king.
Yeah.
She treated me like when we had lunch at church, and I was not allowed to go get my own lunch. She went over and she got it back for me. The other women said, "Don't do that because our husbands are going to expect us to do that." And she said, "If you don't want to treat your husband right, then you don't have to."
Mm,
And she would go get my lunch of whatever it was. Thai food every time.
mm-hmm.
So a lot of things. I have at times been
But wait,
loved and
I'm gonna stop you right there. Make the connection with what was your social identity in that situation when you're being treated like a king.
get me tears doing that.
The spouse of
Melina was her name.
Melina, and she was what? What was her social identity?
She was a she was Thai also. I've had two Thai wives.
Wow. So Melina, who's Thai, your wife, those are parts of her culture that informed her treating you.
As a I
Wow, come on, Dan. Wow. So you want to treat people like servants? No, you end up treating people with royalty
yes.
because you've received it.
I've been treated bad before.
Mm-hmm.
You go back into my childhood, I was not abused, just neglected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Slapped around. It was in a generation where corporal punishment was the norm. Um, So those of my generation, that was the norm. That's not um, considered abuse at that time. You got spanked at school.
Right.
Um, but basically, where at home, everything I did was wrong. Married a woman where everything I did was wrong. And I came to realize later on we were going through a divorce. This was narcissism.
Mm.
I did not even know the word before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did not even know that that was a category of a mental illness, and
Got
and the fact that it was uh, an acquired mental illness, and it developed more as she got older. So now she's full blown. But at that point in time, everything I did was wrong. I would hear her. I'd wake up in the morning and hear her rehearsing the arguments she was going to have with me later on in the day,
Mm.
and it still stayed 30 years because I valued the idea of marriage.
Wow.
Then I married Melina, who treated me almost like worshiped me. Um, uh, a Korean missionary one time saw us together, and she looked over at Melina and said, "You remind me of the Afghani women who say all I need is God and my husband, and that's it."
Mm.
She made shirts for me, probably 50 Hawaiian shirts and several dress shirts. She was a good seamstress. When she was in Riyadh, uh, the Egyptian consulate found out that she could make clothes, and the women were coming to her, and they bring her a picture of clothing, and she would measure them and make that dress in the way that it was in the picture.
Wow.
She was just very talented that way. So she made me a lot of shirts. I still wear them today, and she went into started her Alzheimer's journey probably somewhere around the year 2012.
Mm. Okay.
And she couldn't make shirts after that.
Mm-hmm.
But she treated me. If another woman looked at me in a certain way, that woman got glares like you would not imagine. I was hers. You stay away from him. She understood me. She knew that I treated everybody well. If you treat people the same whether they were 4 or 40 or 80.
Mm-hmm.
But she knew that woman. She knew those women. They got glares. They got stared down. They stayed away. uh, so I got treated very, very, very well,
Yeah.
extremely well. I still miss her. She's been dead for 6 years, and for 4 years before that, she could not walk or talk or anything.
Yeah.
Could not even use the toilet by herself.
Mm.
Had to be in diapers. So I really have not had a conversation with her for 10 years. But for about oh, 12 years before that, we had a rich life.
Mm. What are the tears?
Still miss her so terribly much.
Still missing her. Mm-hmm.
I described that, but because she died so slowly,
Mm-hmm.
the anticipatory grief, by the time she died, she was already dead way before she breathed her last. So I describe it that if the most amount of grief that you can suffer is 100 pounds of grief,
Mm-hmm.
by the time she died, I'd already suffered 98 pounds,
Mm.
and I still carry 2 pounds in a backpack.
Yeah. You don't think that's something you have in common often with not often, but something you might have in common with someone who has lost their mobility?
Oh yes, whenever you've lost. I worked with seniors for many years, decades, and I saw grumpy old men, and I understood them. They had lost so much. Um, they had lost their importance in work. They had lost their their being a strong, virile man.
I wonder what the question, what did you value before this happened? I wonder what it would sound like to ask him, not sound like, but wonder what it would be to ask him, what are you anticipating that you're going to miss that you can't do now?
I think he is so still immersed in shock because this is
Uh,
just a few weeks ago.
yeah.
He is so immersed in shock that he knows whenever I've had like the second visit with him that because of this he needed to he needed to make changes. He knew he'd made poor decisions. He knew that, but he was not yet aware of what changes he was need to make, and probably not even aware whether he would be willing to make those choices when they came to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I need to treat people with respect. I'm not even aware whether he will be willing to do that or not.
Yeah, I don't know what his anticipatory loss might be, but I would imagine he's anticipating something, some things, in addition to, like you said, he's still in shock over the loss period
Yeah,
of his mobility.
he was talking to the physical therapist about walking. Said we don't. They just simply said we don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm.
That does sound like that Kubler-Ross, denial part of that process of grief where you're in denial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all I can do is basically bring it up. He's not there. Withdraw a little bit.
Hmm.
I don't push too hard.
Yeah, you can come alongside him with the a depth of empathy out of your own experience of dealing with loss on your own time, even to the down to the 2 pounds in your backpack right now.
Yeah, that grief can come up in an instant.
Yeah,
Um,
it
but
isn't even
but
as pushing him. And it is your ability because of what you've been through. I don't know, maybe it's just the way we're phrasing it, that you have to come alongside him because you have a depth of understanding about loss.
oh yeah, I have. When I went through a divorce, well, first I lost my ministry. She said, "You're now retired.
I remember that. Yeah.
You're retired. You're not going to." I'd spent my whole life being a minister. Let's say that right now,
Because she didn't want you to experience any more of what you were experiencing, or it wasn't working for her.
it wasn't working for her.
Yeah.
Didn't have anything to do with me.
Okay.
It didn't have anything to do with me. See, if I would have taken another church, that probably meant that I would have had to move to another town. And we owned a home, and she wanted to keep that home. She wanted to keep her job. She wanted everything for her to be the way that it always had been. And after years, I realized, no, this didn't have anything to do with me. Don't take it personally because it wasn't personal. It's all about her,
Hmm.
her children. They don't matter because it's all about her and how they've abused her,
Hmm.
um, how they've not lived up to, taking care of mama. Um, it's just about her. Um, and after a while, I just let her go on and put the put the phone on the counter and wash the dishes.
Mm,
Wished I could empathize with her, but it becomes dangerous.
right. I hear you. I hear you.
You're now trying to get into her emotions and trying to be able to walk with her. You can't walk with her. It's impossible without becoming her. Then I can't become her.
Hmm. I do want you to come alongside folk without becoming them. So that's a good
Well,
you
I'm
that choice.
without becoming codependent, I guess is what I should say.
Mm, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Because when I finally decided to go through a divorce, I was realizing that my codependence, and codependence was a very strong word at that point in time. We go through our fads.
Mm-hmm.
Was coming to the point that it was affecting me and making me into somebody I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
And to be able to live with her, I'd have to make some choice. I went through counseling, and he said, "What are you here for?" And I said, "I have to figure out how I can change in a way to make her happy."
Mm. Ooh.
He pauses for a little bit. He's looking around the room and says, "Exactly what is it that makes you think that you are responsible for making her happy?"
Mm.
I don't know. I thought that was my responsibility.
Wasn't that in the vows?
Something like that. That uh, if it was kind of like the happy wife, happy life.
Ah, okay.
Unhappy wife, nobody's happy. And she was was and is not a happy woman. It's not just her bipolar disorder. I was in a support group with 50 people with bipolar for 10 years,
Wow.
trying to support her.
Mm.
And she would even become moderator of the group.
Wow.
So I had a house with a pool, and at 4th of July, we'd have all of them over to our house and have fireworks out in the front yard and a swimming pool there, and spent a lot of time getting to know that that's not the worst in life. The narcissism is much worse.
Hmm.
The narcissism is way worse.
Wow. And you didn't assess the narcissism, as you said earlier, until recently, till much later.
Much I didn't even know it as really as a word or as a word I took. I read a book by Francis Scott Peck, something about the presence of evil or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was describing something with somebody with malignant narcissistic personality disorder. And I wasn't even looking for it, but all of a sudden it's like things just falling into place. And I had to put the book down, swearing for one of the first times in my life.
Because you had this understanding. Something became very clear. I
Something
hear.
became very clear of who it was. And grief at that point in time, because this is somebody I had loved.
Right. So to bring this, and we're almost out of time, to bring this around, back around full circle, even though that box is empty, you've identified a number of things in your, not just your social identity, but your lived experience, your narrative, that inform the way you do what you do now. I mean, Dan. So it's just the awareness, and that's what I think, having this conversation and you having those memories and sharing them, you're bringing it to the surface so that when you're in the spiritual care encounter, you're going to begin to aware it. You'll be in the moment. So I would say keep giving yourself time about that goal of recognizing it in the moment. You're getting it to the surface. You're getting the language. You're realizing something's coming up in me. And today I think you had excellent insight about what you got in common. That's
The losses, kind of like the losses that this young man is encountering that he doesn't even understand that he
that's
lost.
he can't. Just like you couldn't understand that narcissistic personality at that time.
No,
Yeah,
no, I couldn't understand. I mean, I knew it was there, and I thought it was my fault.
right. So you probably don't need anybody when you don't understand something because you can't throwing a whole lot of labels at you or shoulds or woulds or coulds. But there's something else that is helpful, which is that space to be. Because you don't know what you don't know.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
You don't know what you don't know.
No, that's right. That's right. If you don't know what a narcissist is, or even that it exists, that somebody could be so extremely selfish that nobody exists, nobody has any value except for the narcissistic feed. Absolutely. You've gone through 30 years of marriage, and probably at first it did because that hadn't developed.
But what you just said here was part of what you realized was you felt it was your fault. So without equating the two, you you may have identified something that's very helpful when dealing with an enormous amount of loss and struggle and other things is where one may be laying blame and how empowering it might be to be set free from what looks so obvious to everyone else. It's your fault you got this bullet in your body.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not that clear.
One of the other chaplains told him, you know what? You continue this way, and next time the guy's not going to miss.
Wow. I'm not, yeah, I don't know how helpful that was.
I'm
That
not sure either. You're looking at a 15-year-old that's just been shot and hasn't digested the whole thing, and now you are
blaming.
now blaming him.
Um, I'm glad you paused on that, and I'm glad that was not you. But had it been, we would be reflecting on that, considering what might be more helpful. We got to stop here. Marcelo's going to join in this thing any minute now. This has been very insightful. I think you have a lot of info for those boxes. Good work, Dan. Good work. Good self-awareness. Good connecting of some of your lived experiences and identifying of interventions of how to come alongside, non-judgmental, treating people like people, even finding an opportunity to help folk hear how it's not all their fault.
No, his brother had recruited him. His brother, 10 years older than him, recruited him into the gang. His brother's now in prison for whatever it was that he did. But
Yeah,
it's they even know the fact that most of those in the gang are not going to live past a certain age, or they're going to be in prison for the rest of their life. They know
yeah, yeah.
that that is part of their culture that they know.
Right, right. You're right. Wow. Okay. Woo. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think I think it's worth talking about some of the insights you've gained from this experience in our group. I think we have our interpersonal group this week for the first time. I'm not sure, I have to look, but it's some powerful insights and great connections.
I don't like talking about losses so much. It feels like whining.
But
Uh,
you have some observations here beyond just a tally of loss. You have observations about the power of treating people a certain way because of your experience. You have some observations about how fault, shame, and blame uh, are not helpful interventions. Potentially, I don't want to disparage that other chaplain, but so you have some insights beyond the list of loss. You have insights about the impact of anticipatory grief, of how it's helpful to have grace on the longevity of grief. So yeah. You got some good stuff. All right, we'll stop here and I will see you Friday. Thank you so much for your flexibility today, too. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, well, it's they look at me. They're looking getting the free work out of me, but
Well, I'm glad I could help them too. All right, I will see you Friday.
see you Friday.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Reverend Donna.
I can hear you well. Let me see. I did something with my camera though. There it is. All right. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. And you?
Good. I'm good. I appreciate your flexibility. So we
No, no, no.
have a chance to talk about this space. So
Mhm.
for when we do the IS, but I know you have experience doing it before, don't you? Have you done it ever before?
Experiencing what?
Have you had these individual supervision sessions before?
Yes, I have. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I just share a little bit. I welcome it as an opportunity to get to know you a little better. And as we go forward, you set the agenda. You come and let me know what you want to cover.
Oh, okay, okay,
It's your time.
okay,
So I,
okay. Thank
I
you.
let you know I did hear back from Father Amos. And so we're working on me coming out there. And I think I'm going to be able to come the first week of March,
Oh, okay, perfect.
of February. So I'm going to communicate back and forth with him for a couple more days and figure out what day. But I have your schedule. I know when you're scheduled to be there.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yes,
I'm looking
yes,
forward. So
yeah,
how's it going for you? Tell me how things are going at the hospital and managing everything you're managing.
yeah. I think the first date is confused for me because I don't know exactly what is my function. So I started learning about to the process, to the visit, to the patent. So I introduce me to the patents. I have the agenda point to point to the patent. So this week is better for me because and sometimes I lost to the process. So yeah.
Yeah. So where'd you get the agenda from?
So I see to the chaplains the process. For example, is an introduce. This is the first. So hi, my name is Marcelo. I am a student to chaplain. So I asked to the patient, how are you today or good morning. So depend to the time. So I initial to the conversation with the patient. So
Excellent.
yeah,
How does
yeah.
that feel when you do that?
Be honest, I scared because my English is poor, but I try to talking about with the patient, but I think it's better now.
Do you
Yeah.
do you tell them your English is poor?
I think so. My pronunciation is not very well. So I working very close to two chaplains. One chaplain is two ladies is one is the Korean, the other is African American.
Yes.
So it's very different. The both is very professional, but I would like to um African American because he's very passionate. He's very close to the patient. So I like it. I like it. I think it's the cultural.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yes. That makes sense. That's a good observation, Marcella, of how
yeah.
your culture is going to inform the way you give care. Excellent.
Yes.
So you've got an agenda now. You get in the room. Have you had anybody who was happy to talk to you?
I, I don't know. I don't know, but um, I am explain this. I am chaplain. I am a student chaplain, so I'm not very professional, but I stay here for pray for you, for help to you, stay with you. So the people is happy.
Has anybody kicked you out the room yet?
Yes.
They say, get out of here.
Oh, 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 times, because uh, I would like to pray for you. No, 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 no. You pray for the kids. You pray for the other person, not for me. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah,
How did that
yeah.
feel?
I'm okay. So I understand too. This person is sick or the emotions is not good. So I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes we think of that as they're exercising their authority,
Yes.
and that's good because they're very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And at least they can kick you out. They don't kick the doctor out.
Yes.
So that's sometimes we get to be that person they can have some control over.
Yes.
What's been the best visit so far?
Um. I think uh last week I visit to the person. So this person is very excited because um we're talking about for this family. Uh, she is very excited because he live into the home. So he expressed to the it's time for return to my home. So this visit I love it because the patient is return to home.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah,
Very good. What what what
yeah.
what in that great visit do you think you did well?
So I um I'm visit with the other chaplain. So this person say, please let me permission for the hat for you because um my family don't come with me because live uh a long distance for here.
Yeah.
So do you permit to hat with you? Yes, yes, you can, you can. So I have the hat, I pray together. She cried because
Oh,
this moment is very emotional for her.
of course.
So this time I love it this visit.
That is excellent. I love that you got permission, I,
Mm-hmm.
that you were vulnerable enough, not
Yeah.
so that you couldn't hug.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Wow. That's healing. That's
Yeah,
healing the soul.
yeah.
That's good. So what's the worst visit you've had so far?
My work visit?
Your worst, the really, really bad visit. Have you had a bad visit?
Yes.
Tell me
The
about.
ba- yeah, the bad visit. I think that's the first visit because I introduced me, but the person say, "Are you no chaplain? Are you a student?" Say, yes, I am a student. I coming here for learning. So I'm sorry for oh the internet not working. Yeah. So I say to the person, so I'm sorry. I'm learning about it. You call to the real chaplain. Oh, okay. Okay, so but so I um so I turn around, I leave to the room. So I say to the chaplain, you go to the visit because she don't like me.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm fine, I'm fine. I think it's normal. Yeah.
Yeah, you think so?
I think the situation, the pattern is complicated because in sometimes it's frustration or disagree or I don't know, a lot of things for the family or the sick. So I understand. So long time ago, I coming the personal issues. I come into the hospital for um uh, uh, depression for depression.
Yes.
So I stay in the hospital. My wife called to the brothers and sisters to the church. Oh, my husband is in the hospital. Go to visit. So I very disagree
Mm.
because I planning to stay alone.
Ah,
So I understand the person when don't like to the visit. So in this time, I say to my wife, why you call to the person for coming for visit me? I don't like it. So I prefer to stay alone. So I understand to the patient in this moment, maybe um need to stay alone. Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
That Marcella, that is good self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
good use of self, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what we've been calling empathy.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
EMPATHY, empathy. That
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
from your experience,
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Is there anything you could have done different in that visit?
No, 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 no.
Yeah, absolutely. That was that was good. And I'm glad you could draw on your experience and you're okay.
Yes, yes. Thank you, because this is new for me.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Are you in a private space?
No, because the internet is not working, so I moved to the upside.
Oh,
But it's a privacy place. But
okay, good. Nobody's around. Good.
uh,
So in this space, I think it's helpful to talk about those kind of things. And then also some of the things you have to do to get through the unit.
mhm.
So I want to remind you about your weekly reflection. You know
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, make sure you get one in every week.
Yes.
And we can
Yeah,
talk about that here if you
yeah,
like.
I sent to you the number two reflection.
Okay. I haven't received them yet. You sent it?
No,
Oh,
only the one. Yeah,
okay.
I work on the two. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And for those outcomes, you know how we're tracking them?
Yes.
I want you to, I'm going to email you one of the things I think just in this conversation we've had here that you have accomplished in terms of your empathy for that person who didn't want to visit and how you went to your experience.
Mhm.
And so you were able to manage it. But you said you go see her because she doesn't like me.
Okay.
But is that really how you felt, that she didn't like you? Or was that just the shortest way with your English to say you go in there? She wants a,
No, no. I think it's not for the language. I think for the person needs stay alone. I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because it was
yeah.
a student, not
Mhm.
Marcella. She would have
No,
responded that way to any student.
yeah, yeah.
Just
Any
have-
student, so he wants to the real,
Got it.
uh, yeah, Chaplin.
I hear you. Thank you. I get it. Okay. Anything else you want to cover today?
No, I'm very well. Thank you so much for your
Oh,
time.
make sure you get your clinical hours,
Hmm.
weekly reflection, and look at that tracker so you can look at what you've accomplished and send it to me and we can go back and forth to make sure you get it all
Yeah,
filled.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yes. I think uh I have a lot in the place because I am chair of the Hispanic ministry.
Oh,
So this last Sunday I traveled to Sacramento for stay in Sacramento Sunday afternoons and Monday all day.
wow.
Uh, and I come back to Monday night for a stay in Fresno. I stay here for 2 days, but tomorrow is the other day. So
Mhm.
I return to my home Tuesday. So I working with the old homework.
Okay. That's a lot of travel.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If you find it more helpful to write
Um,
in Spanish, or are you fine with writing in English?
and English is fine. It's
Okay.
fine. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, good. This has been a good visit. Thank you for your time, and I will see you Friday.
See you Friday in the
All
morning.
right.
No problem.
Take care.